evening, everyone, and everyone is people on Zoom. It is 6 p.m. on May 4th. There are 4 members of the Conservation Commission present: Melissa Danza, Jared Gentilucci, Skip Clark, and myself, Peter Crane. I declare we have a quorum present, and I am opening this meeting of the Rutland Conservation Commission. Let us capture. Where is share screen? There you are. And let me go to the correct place, which is right here. So, agenda, minutes of April 20th. People have read this, I hope.
I'd like to make a motion to accept as read, as printed, I mean.
I'll second.
All right, roll call. Gentilucci.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Danza.
Aye.
Crane, aye. And by the way, we have no public present, so I'm going to forego the reading of the remote participation notice because we're all the way we are. All right, follow up. All right, let me just make sure. No. Order of conditions. So these are the conditions for Brice Estate, for Pioneer Drive, is that right? Circle, Pioneer Circle, that's what it is, for the 6 or 7 lots there. There's one special condition for the wetland boundary markers, as you can see. So everything else is just the usual orders, right, Tamika?
Correct. The only one I added had to do with the boundaries.
Perfect. Okay. Questions or comments about the orders?
My only question is if we wanted to specify approximately where that was. I know it was, in some spots it kind of varied, but it was mostly around the 15-foot mark.
Oh, now that's a good point, because back here in the conditions I noticed, let me pull this up and search for 25.
I just wanted to note, I did request from Julian for him to get us a copy of the plan with the dots on it to denote it, and I did not get a response from him.
Okay. Oh, I think you were just on it, Peter.
Was I?
Yeah, it was in bold.
Of course it was.
What you were talking about right there.
Yes, that's it exactly. 25-foot no disturbance zone. Well, we know that's not going to happen.
Well, it says or limit of work.
Oh, you're right, it does.
Even though it says whichever is furthest.
That's the problem. So, Tamika, I think we have to strike that parenthetical comment.
Okay, my question is, so these are the standard conditions we use for everybody. Are we only striking it for just this one particular case?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to check. Thank you.
In general, we're going to stick with the 25 no touch, and that's fine. But we know that it's not happening on this one, so I'd rather not get impossible conditions.
Okay.
And
Peter,
then for those, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm looking back at the plan. Would we want to just revise that to say 15 feet instead of 25? Because I believe they are maintaining a 15-foot buffer from the wetland. Well,
that's true, they are.
I think to Tamika's point, this is just the ones we cut and paste every time. So 99% of the time, this will still work.
No, but I think Jared's asking if we should, all we should change on this one is 25 to 15.
And that's what I meant, just
okay.
Yeah, just for this specific one, yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. I think that's a better option. So, Tamika, you can make that small change on this single order.
Sure, I can do that.
And then maybe on the site-specific one, just put, actually, can you scroll down to the end, Peter? I had it up, but I've lost it in the 3 tabs I have open. So for that last one, the wetland boundary markers shall be placed on the boundary wall located approximately along the 15-foot no touch as discussed at the whatever the date of the last meeting was.
I'm listening. I'm just writing it down.
No, you're fine.
I think, so April 20th.
Yes, April 20th was our last meeting.
Okay. Okay, so Melissa, just to confirm, to add in there, wetland boundary markers shall be placed on the boundary wall located approximately along the 15-foot no touch zone, as discussed at the April 20th meeting.
Yeah, and then just continue along.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Then I think we're ready. I think we did an order, excuse me, a motion to approve the orders of condition for the lots on Pioneer Circle. Do you want to say as amended or as presented? Which is better in this case?
As amended.
Fine.
As amended.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's the motion. Somebody make it?
So moved.
So moved.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second.
There we go. All right, roll call. Clark,
Aye.
Danza,
Aye.
Aye.
Catalucci, Crane, aye. All right. Working through our agenda, now we have some discussion. I think I'm going to do things a little out of order. I noticed that Leah's here. I'd like to know if she has anything in particular she's trying to listen to or comment on, or if she actually has a comment for public comment, or if she is just trying to lurk and I just threw a spotlight on her.
Just listening in the chat.
Okay, great. Why don't I have chat here? I don't care. Oh, it's over there. I keep forgetting how different the controls are for the person who controls it. Okay, so let's go on and go to our business. Site visit to 90 River Road. Jared and I visited that. So Jared, why don't you give a quick report, please?
Sure. So we met with the property owner. Walked down, took a look at the site. This is the site where there was an oil spill and they had a LSP, and I'm forgetting his name, but has been mostly dealing with this. We did walk the site. Most of the work at this point has been completed. I believe it was a semi-permanent trailer where the spill occurred. That has been removed. The area has been essentially cleared out. They have reloamed, reseeded everything. Some of the grass is starting to take, but there's still some bare spots. But they do still have the erosion controls up, silt fence, and straw wattles, and a little bit of crushed stone in one area, looks like, just to reinforce it. And we did walk it. Everything looked good. We did let the owner know just to leave the erosion controls in place until the area is mostly stabilized, because there is still some bare spots throughout there. The grass is starting to take, but needs a little bit more stabilization to complete it. But other than that, everything looked pretty good over there.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that the owner has asked us to tell her when to take down the sedimentation barrier and the wattles. So we'll go back periodically and just look at it. And as soon as it looks good, we'll say, go ahead and pull them down. I mean, when I say we, I of course mean the commission, but it probably means me just going out periodically because I live so close to it. Questions on that? Great, 90 River Road's off our list. 133 Glenwood, Jared.
All right, so next item. So 133 Glenwood, we did talk about this one at our last meeting. And this one actually has been out there for a little bit. James Hooper, who lives it's 133, and I believe the next property up is 141. Him and his family own those two properties. He had reached out to the commission. I know I'm probably repeating some things that I've already said before, but just a general recap. He had reached out to the commission a while back, probably a year and a half ago at least, with just noting issues of flooding on his property at 133 Glenwood. So I had met with him again. This was probably about a year and a half ago. I had met with him to take a look at it. There are 2 culverts that go under the rail trail just west of Glenwood Road. They go under the rail trail. And from what we can tell, the culverts terminate on the rail trail / DCR property, but they ultimately discharge that runoff. It goes into Mr. Hooper's property. And most of that runoff is roadway runoff from Glenwood Road. And so Peter and I went out there Saturday. This was our first site walk this past Saturday. And we started by walking Glenwood Road itself just to take a look at some of the work that DPW has done fairly recently over there. They did do, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, there had previously been some icing issues on Glenwood Road over the last, whatever, 2, 3, 4 years. I don't know the exact timing.
Yeah, that's right. There sure
So,
has.
yeah, so that was something that DPW had done some work to remediate those icing issues by essentially creating a swale and drain lines that run along the west side of Glenwood Road. I happened to be out there I think it was late last fall, which was the last time I had met Colleen Abrams from Wachusett Greenways out there, so we could take another look at the site. And DPW was actually replacing a drain line under one of the neighbor's properties. I'm trying to remember the exact address. It's hold on one second. I have it up on my screen here. 103 Glenwood Road. There was an issue with the drain line running under their driveway, and the DPW had repaired that line last fall. And they actually repaired a couple of the head walls for the drain line running along Glenwood Road. But ultimately, Mr. Hooper's issue is that all that runoff is mostly now going into his property, which Peter and I did see evidence of that. We saw some flow coming out of those culverts heading towards his property, and there was some ponding on his property, or at least it was heading towards his property. I think some of it was reaching his property, where the actual property line is between the DCR rail trail property and his. It's a little bit off the actual rail trail, but it was certainly heading towards his property. So we walked the rail trail itself just to take a look at the conditions. There's a swale running along the south side of the rail trail. It's very flat, but that is one path that water can take to move through that area. And then on the north side of the rail trail, a little further down, so a little further west, there's a fairly large swampy wetland back there. And one of the ideas that Colleen Abrams and I had discussed on a couple previous site walks was if those 2 existing culverts could be essentially discontinued and use that swale to send that roadway runoff from Glenwood Road, send it down the swale to the west, and then install a new culvert under the rail trail that would basically send that water to the same wetland, that large wetland that's behind Mr. Hooper's property. Yeah, right there. That's where it all ends up eventually. So this would just be a way to kind of short circuit his property so that it's not going into his land and flooding it out, which has been the issue he's been dealing with. I think the ultimate question here we were trying to figure out is there really anything we as the commission can do or have any jurisdiction over this? And I think, Peter, I'll let you speak for yourself, but from my opinion, I'm not sure we really have any jurisdiction here, only because I think it's really more, roadway runoff, which is really under DPW's purview, and Wachusett Greenways, who maintains the rail trail. And Colleen has mentioned a couple of times that they're willing to work with DPW and Mr. Hooper to try to remediate this issue. But I'm just not sure that there's a whole lot we can do directly, since I don't think it's really under our jurisdiction at this point.
I'm actually going to broaden that a little bit, Jared. I'm going to say I don't think there's anything that the town can do. There is an existing culvert that is very early into the rail trail off Glenwood Road, and as Jared said, it's there and it's clearly functioning. Water is clearly working through the entire system, and is effectively now a point source. But everything on this whole road comes out this pipe here. There's a second culvert not very far away from it that I nothing was, I don't remember seeing anything running that time on Saturday. Did you, Jared?
It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't visibly flowing, but there was ponded water at the downstream end of that culvert. But not the first one. We could see some visibly flowing water. It wasn't significant, but was flowing a little bit. The second one, it was more just ponded water.
Okay, and so the idea is again, there is an existent, I wouldn't call it a swale, I'd call it a
ditch.
Yeah, a ditch, a drainage ditch, intentional, and the intention of a drainage ditch along this edge. And so, as Jared was saying, the notion is to come, instead of going through the culvert here, to detour through this ditch to there's actually a place where there's a fairly good amount of surface water, probably an intermittent stream, that comes in down this hill, and to put a culvert in at that spot to try and to get that water over there, even if it's over. I'm pretty sure it's around this bend somewhere. I don't think it's before the bend, is it?
I think right about where your cursor is,
There it
Peter.
is.
I think it's right around there.
Okay, so it would go this way. I actually have concerns because I'm not convinced that. I think there are two problems. Number one, I don't know how deeply the culvert is buried here. And so they might have to excavate further to make this ditch into a real swale and use some riprap or something to sort of retard the water flow before it joins with the water from this side and goes across to go into this property. But none of that is a town problem other than intercepting this culvert. And that's not much of a problem for the town because it can do it, but the water's got to go somewhere. So the town can't just let it stop. So that's pretty much the state of things. I think we need to start having a couple more meetings with people. As Jared said, well, if I look right here, come here, little property. Show me who owns you. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. That's why it's not. This says this is owned by the DCR. But it looks like there's some form of conservatorship relationship with Wachusett Greenways, which makes things more complicated, not less, but it's still completely between the state and Wachusett Greenways in terms of doing anything about this to help Mr. Hooper. And as I said, I'm not convinced this swale would support the water flow necessary and would in fact likely induce a fair amount of erosion and sedimentation if it were acted that way. So something needs, it's more than just terminate the culvert or terminate the subsurface and bring it up here and let it flow. I think there's more involved than that. I'm also not 100% convinced about the grade being acceptable, but it would take someone more than with more information than I do to make that determination. So I guess our next question, Jared, is what is our next step? Should we act as facilitator? Should we get the hell out of the way? I'm a little afraid to do that because Mr. Hooper is starting to send letters to several places in town. And although he's gotten negative reactions in that he's been told the town can't do anything, he's going to continue to press on. So maybe we act as facilitator to sort of get everybody in a room and say, what's the best idea? How do we do it? And that everybody would include DPW to deal with that water flow so we can at least talk about it. But I don't think we have the ability or authority to act as anything more than facilitator for this problem.
I agree with that.
I agree with you, Peter.
Me too.
Okay, good. So let's talk about the problem that nobody's talked about yet. So Melissa, somebody builds a house on wetlands. We find out that's the fact. What do we do?
I mean, technically, we're supposed to require them to still file a notice of intent.
Okay, because this is the house that Jared and I visited. We visited because we saw that he had a pipe, a drainage pipe leading to water that goes into the road. And we said, that's not a problem. I was just wondering where it came from. And what a shock. Let me zoom in right here. See see this wetland, mapped wetland right here? Guess where all the water's coming from?
Right there.
Right here.
So it's not connected to any roof drains or foundation drains. It's from the backyard.
That's correct. There are no, actually, I don't know about a foundation drain. There are no gutters on the house. Oh no, I have to be wrong about that.
I think he did have gutters.
He did have gutters. Yes. So there is a drain system there also.
But you could follow the pipe that was going to the road from the back of the property.
Oh yeah. And it was, if it was just the roof drain, it should not have been running the day that we saw it.
That's fair. What number is that? 103?
Yes.
And you don't think we've had anything on that?
Well, I was going to ask, I don't know how to find out whether or not anything's ever been done there.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
I do know this is not an old house. This is, what did he say, 2018?
2017 to 2018.
There we go.
Range, yeah.
So we would have gotten an NOI in that time frame, and I've been on the commission this whole time, and I don't remember one. I remember the NOI for, is this one? This is the one that's right next to the rail trail. Yes, I remember the NOI for this one. I do not, and that was Mark Elbag. I do not remember an NOI for this house, or now that I'm looking at it, come on, fill back in, for this house.
Peter, I don't recall anything either.
I don't know if there's an easy way to find out in the DEP database if we've gotten it. And I just, my memory's not perfect. I don't remember these things.
Yeah, I can just. Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa. I didn't mean to cut you off. I can search my files too to see if we ever issued an order of conditions.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, I see in 2016-ish only lot 2 Glenwood Road from Elbag. I don't see any other in that time frame that was Glenwood.
That's what I thought. And this is not lot 2 Elbag. That's lot 2 Elbag.
Right.
Well, that says lot 1, but trust me, that's the lot that Elbag filed on.
Who built the other two, Peter?
Bobo. Bobo was the guy.
Never mind. Okay.
I can tell you with confidence, we definitely don't have anything from Gloria.
Okay. And something else for us to consider very briefly. Let me zoom out. The builder was a jerk to this property owner because he has a driveway here now. I don't care that he put a driveway in, but he put everything up and made a berm along this property line. So the water can't flow towards the rail trail. And so I don't know how much is cleared. It is obviously, this whole area way back here is cleared. More than that, I can't say because I can't see it and I didn't visit the property. I don't know where he's planning to build a house. Assuming he's planning to build a house, he may be planning to subdivide. I have no idea. But wetland here, which,
Yeah.
granted, this much is on this other property. Oh, that's more of Shirley Warren's property, Jared. She crosses the rail trail. She spans the rail trail. But this obviously is something, and this is a sizable lot.
And I wouldn't be surprised if most of that wooded area in that larger lot is wetland, even though it's not mapped from GIS. Just looking at the spacing of the trees.
Yes.
There is There is a hydraulic connection on Mass GIS cutting through the middle of that property, kind of north-south.
That connects these two. Oh, north-south?
Yeah. It looks like it starts sort of in the middle of the property, heads north, and then bangs a left and heads west and ties into that other kind of long, skinny wetland.
Oh, this
on
one.
the side of the rail trail, yeah.
Okay. Well, there's no question in my mind, the rail trail, I mean, being railroad and when it was done, I get it, but they just marched right across the wetlands when they did it. Because I can't see there not being a hydraulic connection here originally before the railroad was built.
There is a culvert that goes under that section of the rail trail. I remember Colleen pointed that out to me one of the times her and I walked it. I think it actually goes, I can't tell you exactly where it is, but it was a little ways down, but it was somewhere in this general area.
Yeah, okay. So so I guess the right next question, there are several next questions. I'm going to ask this one first. What do we do about this property? If he's actively clearing, should we stop him?
Yes.
Shouldn't he have a cutting plan if he's clearing trees out there? It's over an acre, ain't it?
Oh, hell yes.
That's a good point too, Skip.
We have not received anything, at least not in recent date to memory.
Yeah, this is a 16-acre property right now.
I think you should have a cutting plan of some sort, personally.
Is it possible to reach out to the state forester to see if he filed one that we just don't remember / know about?
Wouldn't hurt.
Because, I mean, DCR should have that, right?
I have the forester's information. I'd be happy to reach back out to him, to
Great.
ask him.
That would be wonderful, thank you.
What would I give him for the property address?
I wouldn't give him an address, I'd give him a parcel.
Okay, what's the parcel ID?
That's a great question. It
Okay.
is, 43-A-22.
A-22, okay. Got it.
And I mean, for context, if you want to give more context, it's between Glenwood Road and the rail trail, the DCR's rail trail. The total property is 16 acres. So again, I don't know how much will help.
If you look at, Peter, will you put up the base map for the 2013, 2014? I think it's kind of scary. And then look at where those new houses are, because they won't be there, or they shouldn't. If you turn off the wetland layer, it looks like there was kind of a little stream that might have been there. You
Like
see
this
that
one
little,
right here?
yeah. And even you can kind of see it off to the back, right next to the 3, to the left of the 3, kind of hooking downwards.
Oh, there,
too.
yeah, right over here.
Yeah. So that's a little troublesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see why they'd have water.
Yep.
That lines up very closely with the DEP wetland layers.
Yeah, that's something. be something worth maybe having Tamika reach out to Kim Roth, the wetland circuit rider, and see what her thought process would be in terms of if we find kind of this situation, you know, obviously it'd be a different person who owned it than built it, and it's been there established for several years now. You know, how might the best way to move forward with maybe these two particular aspects of it?
Yeah, I like that. Who should reach out?
I think Tamika could probably do that.
Okay.
I think she has Kim's email.
Yep, I do have Kim's email. Just to confirm, what am I specifically referencing? Is that a different spot than where you want me to ask Chris Capone about?
I think we should target more the two home lots, so the 103 and is it 105 or 101? 103 and 101.
Right.
And maybe, and I can send a screenshot of maybe this data layer to you, Tamika, to include, and with the Mass GIS that shows that stream, and then the current one with the houses on it, saying, you know, we've just kind of been looking in this area just for other issues and kind of noticed this historic information, and was never a filing. What would the recommendation be to move forward?
Okay, got it.
Because I think it's unfair to the people who have purchased these homes and are living there for now, you know, a few years, but you know, clearly they're now kind of diverting water elsewhere, and I think by default kind of directly altering a wetland area, but
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
if
send
we
you some
go,
pictures.
yeah, I mean, if we go to the current and show it again. I mean, they're a couple feet, they're in the this house is in the wetland.
Or it was, yeah.
And
that's probably why it's built up so much.
Yeah, and by the way, guess who's uphill? This is uphill, this is downhill. Guess which way the water flows? And anecdotally, the owners of this property said that the owners of this property have also experienced a bit of water problems. And I can't be shocked. So, okay, so Tamika, reach out to Kim about these two, reach out to the forester about the other property to see if a cutting plan's been sent in, or if he's just going on his own.
Sure, I'll follow up on both of those.
Do we want in the meantime, or maybe if, I think Chris, the forestry, can get back to you relatively soon. If he doesn't, then maybe already authorizing Tamika to send out kind of that first friendly letter to say you should cease and desist and come to our next meeting.
Yes, I agree.
So maybe Tamika, if you haven't heard back in the next 7 days from the forester, then get that letter out.
Is that going to Gloria? Is that the owner of the
Yes, of this big one. Yep.
Okay. Yes, I can certainly do that.
Tamika, I just took a couple screenshots from the 2013 ortho and the 2019 ortho with the wetland layers on, so I can email those to you.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you, Jared.
Yep.
Thanks, Jared.
Yep.
Okay, do I have anything else on this property? So Tamika, let's just have a generic Glenwood Road wetlands issue on the next agenda.
You got it.
Thank you. Other questions about Glenwood Road? Any of those properties we discussed?
Peter, just going back to facilitating any future discussions for
Oh,
Mr.
yes,
Hooper.
okay.
Yeah, just thinking. I agree. I think at this point, helping to facilitate, I think, is the right way to approach it. But it certainly would have to be other parties to really move this forward in any way. So,
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, just trying to think of the next step, but I'm certainly willing to help facilitate as much as possible.
Yeah, I think the next step is to call a meeting with Mr. Hooper, with Colleen, with some rep from DCR, because they need to be kept, even if there is conservatorship, they need to be in the loop. And DPW. And then obviously us, this Concom would make 5.
Maybe an on-site meeting would make the most sense.
Trying to figure out how we would. Yeah, that probably does. I was trying to think if there are not very many good meeting sites in town right now, but the room I'm in at the library is probably the best one, and it would have to be during the day. And that just makes it complicated, but we'll work through that.
Okay.
So, Jared, do you mind just taking a point and seeing when other people can get together and discuss this?
Sure.
And I would prefer on-site, in-person meeting. Yeah, socially distanced, blah, blah, blah. But I also think this won't be a formal town meeting, so I don't think we need to post it as a public meeting. And I don't think we need to have Zoom unless some people can't make it, in which case we'll have to make alternate, can't physically make it. Then we'll need some form of alternative, and we'll figure that out. Alrighty.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Moving on. The infamous months delayed visit to Glenwood Place. Jared, I'm going to have you take the lead on this one again.
Sure. So give me 1 second. We'll pull up the map here. So we started our site walk on Saturday. Let's see. We started at 91 Glenwood Place, and we met with Scott Day, the homeowner. Last time, Peter, you and I had gone out there, I believe we talked to his wife, Stephanie, and then Scott allowed us to walk his property on Saturday, take a look at some of the work that he had done. Most of the actual clearing work he had done was much closer to his house, and he had indicated that further back in his property, there were maybe a handful of trees that had been cut down. Well, I'm going to say they had been cut, presumably by the builder, but had never actually been, they kind of got stuck as they were falling. They didn't completely fall down. They got stuck into the other trees. So he eventually took them down just for safety reasons. But I believe he left all the stumps in place. So my understanding from our discussion with Scott was that really a lot of the work he had done had been just clearing some of these trees that had been cut but had not actually fallen over and been removed. And so there really wasn't much, if any, soil disturbance. We did walk the area. So the area that is mapped as a wetland that we see here, we did walk that area. At the time, it looked to us, we kind of made the quasi-determination that it appeared to be a bordering vegetated wetland. I did take another look at the GIS maps and the wetland layers, and they actually don't show a hydraulic connection to, there's a much larger wetland to the west, maybe 400 or 500 feet or more to the west, and they don't show a hydraulic connection to any of those wetlands down there. So I think it's still somewhat up for debate. None of us are wetland scientists, so it's up for debate whether this is a bordering vegetated wetland or an isolated vegetated wetland. And there's a big distinction between the two, because an IVW would not be jurisdictional, a BVW would be. But regardless, I don't think we saw anything out there that concerned, certainly on my end, I can say didn't really concern me. There was really no earth disturbance going on. It was mostly just clearing some of those trees out of there that had been previously cut but not removed by the builder. And a lot of the other work was more than 100 feet from this wetland. So whether or not this is jurisdictional or not, the other work he had done was more than 100 feet away, so would not have been in our jurisdiction regardless.
Yep. Okay. Skip, you want to add anything?
Nope, that one there, I can go along with Jared on that one. He did a good job. I really think that the water table's right there anyway. As soon as he moves any dirt, the water's going to bubble out of the ground anyway, in my opinion.
I will also say that there were signs that water used to run in one place and it now runs in a different route than it did before. At least that was my interpretation of the ground. That's not a problem, and I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong. I'm just saying that's the way it looked to me. It looked like both the old and the new flow went over in this direction, and we didn't go onto these properties to see if there was an apparent any stream, intermittent or otherwise, that came out of here. So we didn't go looking. There was no evidence of any bad action on their part. The closest thing is that there's a stone wall right around here somewhere, and he basically trenched, or it's not a deep trench, but he did some clearing to let water flow along the stone wall and to turn and go into this space in the same thing. It looked like it wasn't as active as some of the other water flows that we saw that day, but again, I don't see a problem. I just see that's what he's done. We saw no evidence of anything way back here. Everything that we looked at really was, in this area. As near as I could tell, given that we didn't have a GPS on us and we didn't really, we looked around and said, okay, the wetland might be over here. And we did our best to not act like wetland scientists on top of that. And so our conclusion, oh, by the way, there were 4 members there. Jared was there, I was there, Skip was there, and Joe Delaquilla was there. Woo! It was nice to see him.
Hey, what? How is Joe?
Joe got all his walking in for the day that he's allowed just touring this property.
Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Joe looked to be okay on Saturday, I have to say. Yeah, it didn't help him that we parked up here and walked down the driveway and then walked the property and walked back. Oh, well, sorry, Joe. So I consider this property a closed issue. I don't think there's anything going on. Questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, let's move on to the other property. Wait, that one's got to be. This has to be it right here.
Yeah, that's it, Peter. 83? Yep.
Right. I don't see the house between them up. That's interesting. Oh, but then again, that house is probably more recent. So, all right. So, why don't you lead us down this one, please, Jared?
Sure. So we met with the homeowners, Parker and Joe Rofe, and they brought us back into their backyard. They cleared an area behind their house. They're looking to build basically a garage, and we walked to the area back there. From what we can tell, and Peter, you and I had walked the property adjacent to it to the north. We had walked that property, I forget exactly when, but last fall, maybe, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 months ago at this point. And just to try to find what appears to be a wetland resource area down in the back of that property. That one also appears that it may be isolated, but again, we're not wetland scientists, so we can't completely make that claim. But DP, the wetland maps through MassGIS don't show a connection between that wetland in the back of, I think that's 85 Glenwood Place is the property to the north.
Yes.
The one that doesn't show a house now, but there is a house there now. So the work that the Rofes have done and are continuing to work on in the back portion of their backyard, by my account, it certainly appears to be well over 100 feet from any even potential jurisdictional wetlands. They are dealing with some drainage work that they're going to be doing some additional work on. They did indicate that they could just get us a sketch for what they're planning to do, just some fairly simple drainage routing just to keep that stone pad area there where they're looking to put that garage, just to keep it dry and route the drainage around it. So they did indicate they would send us a sketch for that, just so we have it for record. But again, kind of like with the other property, I think everything they're doing is well beyond any 100-foot buffer areas and outside our jurisdiction.
Skip, you want to add anything?
It's out of our jurisdiction, but them directing and flooding water on the neighbor's property is that in our jurisdiction? It's not really, right?
No, it's not.
So, I mean, in my opinion, he should have some sort of, should have went to the building department for drainage plans around that pad, and not even us. But that's, I just feel sorry for the person next door if he doesn't do that right, because he's gonna eventually flood his backyard if he doesn't do it right. The neighbor's yard, that is.
Yeah, there's definitely taking what had historically been sheet flow and turning it into a point source. So there has been built up here a pad with crushed stone and stone dust, sort of in this area.
Yeah.
And water runs freely down this driveway and is in fact quite literally destroying their driveway as it runs down it, and is then whatever other water would flow. And you could, if you on the land, you can clearly see everything flows that way and everything flows this way, which all kind of makes sense because there's the low point. So when he puts the pad in here, there is currently a drain pipe on only one side of the pad that they're going to continue down. We actually suggested, it looks like they're going to do it, putting in a dry well at this juncture of, holy cow, sorry about that, folks, at the juncture of where the water comes in from the driveway and where the pad drainage meet. That they'll put in some form of dry well there, and then continue down this property for the distance, quote unquote, well beyond the size of the pad. When we get a sketch, we'll know. Their intent is to put a perimeter around the entire pad that they have, because the pad is built up, what do you think, 8 inches from ground level? Is that about right?
Yeah, 8 to 10, yep.
8 to 10, there you go. So they're putting in drainage around the whole thing, and I believe it's all going to exit down here somewhere. So it will turn into a point source of water for all the water. So we're probably gonna have to suggest that they put in riprap or something to slow it down, because it's just gonna come shooting out of there.
Oh, yeah.
You're right, Mitch, it is going, Mitch, I'm sorry, you're right, Skip. There's going to be some fascinating water changes over time. I get why they're doing what they're doing. I just don't know what the long-term effects of it are going to be. But as always, as we said, it's not jurisdictional to us, so I don't know who we would send them to, because the building department isn't going to expect water flow analysis.
Yeah, but you drain a foundation to a house, don't you?
Yeah, that probably is going to be linked in this. My gut tells me it'll be linked in also. So that's even more water. So I would sort of, all we can do is keep a watch out, pay attention, and see what happens here. I don't think in the long run we'll have anything to do. It'll be nice to have them submit some paperwork so we can at least ask questions as a commission, and also make some suggestions as a commission for any other modifications we think would be worthwhile. They certainly seemed open to suggestions, so we'll see if they do put in the dry well. That'll be a fascinating thing to see or to hear. But as it is now, this property is also, I think, off our list of things to have on our agenda.
I agree.
Other questions or comments?
Nope.
Okay. Before I move on, I want to say something I meant to say at the very top of the meeting. You notice Bill Cannon is not here, and he was not here a couple of weeks ago. Bill is in the hospital with COVID, and it has been very, very serious. He's had a couple of ups and downs on it. Hopefully he's improving now. The last report I got is he's still on forced ventilation, but they're talking about converting from forced ventilation to assistance. So that's actually a big improvement. So hopefully things get better. His wife is out of the hospital. So our best thoughts go out to the whole Cannon family in hopes that everybody gets better.
And happy birthday too, because today is Bill's birthday.
Is it? I didn't know
Yes.
that.
Yes.
You're right. Happy birthday too. Okay. Let us, then I guess we're done with Glenwood Place. Let's move on to Oakley Drive. I'm sorry, what's that, Skip?
I said, you're right.
Yep, okay. Oakley Drive. So this is all about the Grand Canyon of a supposed swale. No, that's unfair, but I'm just gonna go with it. It's the Grand Canyon of a swale that has no riprap or anything to retard flow, behind 4 Oakley Circle and a couple other properties up there too. So Melissa sent Clee an email. Clee responded. Actually, Melissa covered a couple things. We'll hit on each of those things before we're done. And so I believe lot 72 is what we think of as 4 Oakley, I believe. And then it comes this unplanned swale is creating other problems on other properties downhill on Woodside. Clee talks about the intent to put in, as it says here, drop inlet and riprap and other things to make things better for the residents. We'll see what they do. I agree, based on my assessment, I agree that there is no erosion growing near the wetlands. I agree with that assessment. At least that has been what I believe I have seen on the property, but I haven't been there while it's raining. I'm going to cover a couple other questions, but at least let's talk about that part, the swale. any questions or comments? Melissa, I didn't see a reaction or a return on this. Did anything else happen about this topic?
Not about the swale specifically, no.
Okay.
I know Chris Lucas also responded, but that was about the wetland stuff.
Exactly. Well, I'll treat that as a separate question for us to address.
Yeah. Actually, I think the one thing that I was still confused of, that I kind of heard two conflicting things in terms of the first comment, I don't think it was in this email, and just in discussions with them, that they had already gotten these changes approved from planning board. And then in this email from Clean right here, it said that they would make sure that planning board reviews and approves the changes. So I just kind of want to make sure that planning board is kind of, I'm pretty confident they know that this is what it looks like right now. But just making sure that, this specific aspect Carl has looked at, I think.
Right. So let me fill in a little information. I believe that what Clee was saying when what was intending to say when he talked about planning board already knowing about it, that's the downhill stuff. So here, let me bring up the gist again, and let's go to I bet I spelled that very wrong. Oakley Drive, not Oakley circles, drives, arrows, whatever. Okay.
Sorry, half the time is something else too, so. And it used to be, what was it, Millbrook or something before?
Yes, it was originally called Millbrook until somebody realized there's already something called Millbrook in town. So they had to rename it to Oakley. All right. So this doesn't show any of the houses. In fact, that's 4. Huh. Because the property we were talking about is right, I think, here. Maybe it's 5. Fine. It wouldn't surprise me if I got confused with numbers. Because the swale comes down here, comes onto this property, and then goes, and then just sort of ends. There is there is a swale, but this water does not make it into that swale. So they're going to redirect water into the swale. Now the water, as it flows downhill to these houses here, and in fact down for several more, has been causing significant problems for the landowners.
Isn't it flipped? I thought it was it wraps around those back properties and then heads down to Woodside.
You know what? You're right. It is. I'm misoriented because this is going to be Woodside Ave.
Yeah.
Woodside Drive. So yes, that is 4. So yes, take everything I just said and flip it 90 degrees. So the swale comes down here. This is the top of the hill. And then there's this swale that comes in down here and there is a swale over here to try and deal with water. And this water does not make it to this swale. And so between the water that is making it into this swale and the water that isn't, there's a lot of problems back here with water. And so Clea is going to put in water control and water collection, and they'll get water into the storm water system on the back of these properties to get it the heck off the properties, which is what the residents keep complaining about. We've had some of them in our meetings. So I believe that what Clea was talking about that the planning board knows about is his approach to deal with the water here. I don't think planning understands what's happening up here in the areas that we've been talking about.
Okay.
And so saying planning board, sure, we'll make sure they're aware. Yes, I'm sure he will now. I haven't been able to be at the last few planning boards, so, and I doubt I'll be able to be there. Well, I don't know if I'll be there this week. So we can certainly send an email chair to chair just to say, hey, you should know about this also. So he'll be adding riprap to the swale. Good. And then there's even more work happening sort of along this property border to make sure that that all the water's dealt with and isn't just more flow into everybody's yard. Enough words. Questions or comments on that so far?
You're gonna reach out to Norm or Dave?
Yeah, I'll reach out to both of them.
Oh, one other question. Do we still, I think, Peter, you had like the individual plans or sheets scanned in. Do you want me to ask Lee for that electronic copy? Because it'll probably be a lot cleaner.
If we can get it, sure. I think that would be fine if we get an electronic copy. I don't mind doing that. I love to get it as a single plan and not as.
Yeah, exactly.
It was very difficult to deal with that and organize it.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I will respond to that.
Yep. Thank you. Oh yes, we're building almost exactly what was approved. Let's not go into that. Anyway. So that's Clee's response. And now as to, here, let me just, to orient us, I believe 1, 2, 3, I believe it's back here is where we saw the erosion problem, the actual sediment getting through the barrier and getting into the wetlands. I believe that's all over here. Might be up one more, but I don't think so. I think this is it.
I think that's right, Peter.
So for Chris Lucas spoke to that. I had asked Tom to make sure we were invited to this meeting because I wanted me or Melissa or Jared to be there because we three now understand Melissa and Jared really understand the depth and breadth of the problem that they saw, and I've begun to understand it better and know places to look. So I'm disappointed we weren't invited to that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, to Tom's defense, I think it was last minute that Chris was in town for another project, so he just stopped by.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that's not on Tom.
Thank you, I appreciate.
Not on Chris either, but yeah, that's why I think.
Okay. Blah blah blah. Riprap. So Tom has removed almost all the sediment that breached the erosion control line, a slight coating of the leaves and into the water. I'm not sure that description jibes with what I think I saw when I was on a walk with Jared. Does that jibe, Melissa, with you or Jared with you?
So I think I did talk to Chris a little bit more just because we were working on another project together and clarified just to make sure, again, because we weren't at that meeting, to make sure he was in the right area. So it sounded like it was. Again, I haven't seen it since either of them supposedly did some additional work. I think what Chris means here is that on top of what was removed behind the silt fence, they went out with some kind of buckets and removed a little bit more by hand.
Yeah.
And then again, he talked about there was a little bit more kind of between the two silt fences that he removed. And then the significant sediment that me and Jared saw, and then subsequently Peter, I think has thankfully flushed itself out, what it sounded like from Chris. So they might have lucked out pretty well in this situation, in the sense that this water flows pretty well in this area. This is kind of part of the defined, it's not part of the stream quite right there, but it gets enough offlow from it that it definitely makes its way and has enough current that I think it's flushed a significant part of it out. Okay. And he was talking about how there's a lot more growth in there. The cinnamon ferns have grown in. So I haven't gone back to double check, but that was more what it sounded like, that there was some more work done by hand on top of what you guys saw.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if the three of us, or two, if some of us can go out and look at it. Because it's not that I don't trust Tom. I know that Tom does his best. I'm sure Chris is telling the complete truth as he understands it. I'm just looking to be sure that we all agree on that the sedimentation's gone, fundamentally gone from the levels that we saw last year. Granted, a lot of snow, a lot of water, lots of things could have happened. It wouldn't shock me that it's gone, but I would like us as the commission to be certain with our own eyes.
I agree,
Same
100%.
here.
So this is town meeting weekend. That ain't gonna happen. But ooh, no, this is May. Thank you. What do you think? Maybe about 15th or 16th?
I can do the 15th.
I think I will be with family that day.
Actually,
You guys are more than fine to
it
go
doesn't.
without me.
Yeah, it doesn't actually have to be the 5th, a Saturday. If it's easier for us to do it during the week, I just don't know if that's going to end up being any easier.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, horribly, my weekends are pretty much solid until June.
what about Friday the 14th?
I think I can make that work. Depends on the time.
Sure, we can arrange that.
Yeah, it depends on the time. Morning is probably better that day, but I can see what's going on, or you guys are more than good to go out.
Yeah, Jared, what do you think?
Let's see. I've got a couple meetings in the morning. I could probably do mid-morning, maybe mid to late morning. I could definitely do later in the day.
I would say schedule whatever's best for you guys at this point. I can always head out that morning too by myself.
Right. Fair enough.
I'll wear my orange vest, so.
Hey, we're also going to send email to Clee because we're supposed to get permission before we enter the property still.
Okay.
So we'll just tell him we'll be out. So Jared, what time?
Email to Cleve, Peter, once you guys pick a day and time.
Great, thank you. Jared, what time?
Let's see. I think I can probably meet as early as 10 o'clock, 10 or 10:30.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll put you on my schedule before anybody books me for another work meeting.
I'm going to do the same.
You want to call it 10?
Yeah, we'll call it 10.
Yeah.
All right, I might be able to swing that.
Okay.
At least for a little bit.
That works. Awesome. So, yeah. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Perfect. And we don't need this posted because it's just going to be 3 of us. Great. So I'll see you guys on Friday the 14th. And we'll have another report for next time. So we'll just leave this one on, Melissa, Tamika.
Got it.
And this is just, oh, this must have been sent before. Alrighty. I didn't think this was much of a mitigation plan. Am I wrong, Melissa? Well, maybe since he viewed it as being so little silt.
Yeah, I think as long as we agree with his findings, then, you know, it is what it is. I think it would have been nice to be a little bit more involved during the whole process in general, but we're at where we're at.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else on Brice Lemon? Great. Oh, that included the mitigation plan. Fine. We just talked about that, so we don't have to talk about that more right now. All right, now I'd like a motion to add a discussion for 7 Phillips Ave to the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Clark,
Aye.
Gendelucci,
Aye.
Danza,
Aye.
Crane, aye. Okay, so let's talk about 7 Phillips Ave. This was certainly late-breaking news to us, so in fact, I think have we all seen email about this? Nobody's saying anything.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so it's trees, and in fact, I'll pull up sort of this. Oh, that says to remain. I thought that said to remove. So it's these 2 trees here that they are going to or have already brought down.
They have not brought them down yet.
Okay.
We had asked them not to do that until they ran everything by the commission.
Okay. I believe Melissa responded that we should think seriously about just an emergency order?
I usually do this just administratively, hazardous tree removal. So even just Tamika issuing a letter with this attached, with the condition that the stump must remain.
Yeah, and that is in their
Yep.
description, so I'm all set for that. I'm thrilled that the crane is going to be on a paved surface. That's got to be a big crane to go over the house and take down the trees, but okay.
There's been some decent cranes around Turkey Hill recently. It's been pretty impressive. They had to fix a septic down there too, so.
Oh, brother.
It's been quite an adventure watching that day by day as I drive by to go to work.
Okay. So yeah, I'm fine with the work being done. Oh, I see, because we're well within. If this is the 50, then they're like 60 feet or less. Call that 60 feet. But still, yeah, definitely work that's jurisdictional. I'm thrilled they're leaving the stumps behind, even if there'll be a ground level fine. The ants will take care of them anyway. So do we need to take a vote or an action, or just
I'll move to allow Tamika to write a hazardous tree removal permit for this property. Now that I forget the address.
7 Phillips Ave.
Thank you.
Second it.
Okay. Roll call. Clark.
Aye.
Danza.
Aye.
Gentelucci.
Aye.
Crane, aye. Wahoo. All right. I cannot go deeply into bylaws tonight. I can go a little bit, but my brain is fried, and not because of Concom. It's not you guys' fault. You guys get. I'm not sure if this is a benefit or a problem that I'm just not ready to talk about bylaws.
Can I give a suggestion, Peter?
Yes, please.
That maybe instead of discussing it tonight, since I think we're all in town meeting mode, maybe having everyone between the next 2 meetings send a list to Tamika that she can kind of compile in a Google Doc of specifics or things that people want or specifically do not want to see in bylaw.
Awesome. No, I think that's fine. I was gonna sort of gear it towards how many bylaws, but I don't think we know how many bylaws we want by the time we're done. So I'm fine with that, with just the way you suggest, Melissa.
Unless you use something else, it sounds like you're fried too.
Oh, yeah. This has been a heck of a fun week. So does anyone else have any other thoughts, comments, questions about bylaws in general, or what we think or what we expect everyone to be doing for the next meeting?
Are we focusing on just wetland bylaw, or also including, I know we've talked about stormwater bylaw, we've talked about a couple of them. Do we want
I
to
think-
focus on wetland bylaw first?
I think we should collect everything for everything we're thinking about setting a bylaw for.
Okay.
So let's get them all in and we can filter them out later. If anything needs to be filtered, I mean, let's get all the ideas down so we can at least agree. At the next meeting, I think we should go through the ideas and make sure that we all agree on what should be in and not in the bylaw or bylaws, and we can figure out the exact approach once we know what we agree to. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
All righty. And I'll ask the magic question. Is there any other business to come before the commission tonight? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Nice roll call vote. Actually, hold on. Before I do that, I'm going to ask Leah if she has any thoughts or questions or comments for tonight's meeting. I know that she's just watching and she can't really speak, but if she has anything, please put it in chat and let's figure out anything else we want to do or talk about.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Concom. My only question is it possible to get a note to the town administrator office about that James Hooper property? Just because he's been sending letters to the select board individually as well as to the town administrator. And just so that there's communication on that to that office that everything has been like addressed through Concom.
Yes, we can. I'll write up an email to the select board and to Ron as chair, describing the current status, what we think the town can and cannot do for him. And so we will all have a common view of everything moving forward, a status.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just because, like I said, he's been reaching out to all of us individually as well as to the town administrator directly also. So just if everybody's on the same page as far as like what's been, the status, that's all.
Right. Yep, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me listen out, everyone.
You're very welcome, and you're welcome anytime, like every other member of the public. All right, so having gotten a motion in a second to adjourn, roll call, Gentilucci.
Aye.
Danza.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Crane, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all so very much.